What is Title 42? What is an asylum seeker? And what does it have to do with the current U.S. border crisis? Let's talk about it. Over the course of the last couple of years, I've been asked many times by friends to explain what is this whole Title 42 thing I keep hearing about in the news, and what does it have to do with the migrants coming across seeking asylum? And there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I thought I would make this quick video to clarify a few things. But let me be clear, I'm not going into the politics of Title 42, and I'm not giving you any of my personal opinions, because like everything in life, there's two sides of the argument. One side is arguing that the federal government is misusing Title 42, almost like an anti-migrant weapon to prevent them or deny their fundamental rights to show up to the United States and ask for asylum. On the other side of the aisle, people are arguing, oh no, the government is properly using Title 42 in an effort to protect the people who live within the borders of the United States against a virus, and of course I'm talking about COVID, that's spreading during a pandemic. My job is just to give you the facts, and you can come up with your own conclusions. But before we dive into Title 42, let's make sure we're all on board on what exactly is an asylum seeker. An asylum seeker is a refugee or a migrant who leaves their home country and comes to the United States, makes contact with government officials, and asks to stay under a request of asylum. Now, they could stop at any one of many countries and ask for asylum, but I'm only going to talk about the United States. And once they arrive in the United States, they're supposed to present themselves to a customs official and say, hey, look, I'm scared to go back to my own country. I want to stay. And in order for them to stay under an asylum claim, they're going to have to demonstrate to U.S. officials that they have a credible fear that if they are returned to their home country, they will be persecuted by their own government on one of 5 protected grounds, which is race, religion, nationality, affiliation with a particular political group, or being a member of a particular social class. Now, people coming to the United States seeking asylum is nothing new. This has been going on since the conclusion of World War II. And up until recently, people had the right to show up here per US law and international treaty and at least ask for asylum. The government could still deny that request, but the government had to at least give them due process. That stopped in March of 2020 when then President Trump invoked the use of Title 42. Now, what is Title 42? Well, let me clear up one other thing I've heard more than once. Many people have suggested that Donald Trump created Title 42. This is just not the case. In fact, Title 42 has been around since 1944. It's just rarely been used in the manner it's being used today. So a more accurate statement would be, the recent use of Title 42 is a President Trump era policy, but he did not create Title 42. All right, now let's dive in. What is Title 42? Title 42 is a voluminous body of law that you can find in the US Code that deals with public health, social welfare, and civil rights. I was going to print out Title 42 and show you a hard copy, but it's over 1,000 pages, so forget about it. And it's some pretty dry reading. You can find it online if you actually want to read it, and if you do that, I suggest you go straight to section 265 because that's pertinent to what we're talking about today. And what section 265 says, and I'm going to paraphrase it, it says in a nutshell that if the United States Surgeon General determines that there's a virus out there in foreign lands, and it doesn't matter if there's cases already within the US, if he determines that this virus or other health hazard is outside the United States, and by letting more people come in, that increases exposure to people within the borders of the US, he has the authority through the US government to deny people's right to enter the United States. And that includes asylum seekers. Now, to be clear, I'm not talking about US citizens or people with legal status like permanent residents. Obviously, if you're a US citizen and you go on vacation in Europe, you're going to be allowed to return to the United States. But I'm talking about asylum seekers. Now, with Title 42, the government doesn't even have to entertain an asylum claim. They can just say, no, we don't want to hear it, and they can turn everyone around and send them straight back to their home country. And even though the government can do that under Title 42, that's not happening in every single case. Now, let's talk statistics. The federal government on its own website, and by the way, don't take my word for any of these stats. You can confirm this yourself, but the federal government reports that in the year 2022 alone, there were over 2 million, it's like, 2.4 million encounters by officials of Customs and Border Protection, and that's Customs and agents of the United States Border Patrol. And when they use the word encounter, they're talking mostly about arrests, which, by the way, let me clear up another misconception that even members of our own U.S. Congress can't seem to get straight. Per international treaty, if you're going to come to the United States and ask for asylum, you're supposed to go to a port of entry, which is, buildings along the border, where you have U.S. Customs officials, guys with the blue uniforms, and you're supposed to present yourself and say, hey, I'm here, here's my documents, I'm seeking asylum. That should trigger the process. But obviously, with the sheer numbers of people trying to come over the last few years, the port of entries are overwhelmed. And what's been going on for several years now is people link up with these smuggling organizations and they just jump the fence from Mexico into the US and walk north. Or they come through the mountain ranges of California or Arizona, where they start off in Mexico, they come through the mountain ranges, and they drop down into the United States and just keep going north. They never encounter anyone from Customs. If you do it that way, you're committing an illegal entry in violation of Title 8 United States Code 1325, which is clearly in violation of federal law. And if you get caught by Border Patrol, you're going to be arrested. Now, just because you get arrested by Border Patrol does not mean you can't still ask for asylum. One has nothing to do with the other. Now, going back to the numbers, again, 2022, 2.4 million arrests. Now, the feds also report on their own website that since the current administration took over 1 million people have been arrested, processed, and released within the U.S. pending their immigration hearing. And of course, they've been fanned out all over the United States. If you've been watching the news, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, to put that in perspective, 1 million people is basically the population of Delaware. So it's like taking on another state. And there's more coming. Now, within the last few months, the current administration has indicated that they want to stop using Title 42. But there's been some blowback because at least 19 states have filed litigation within the federal U.S. court system seeking an injunction to stop the Biden administration from revoking the use of Title 42. Reason being that many experts predict that once the government stops using Title 42, now, because they're going to have to consider everyone's asylum claims again, that this will trigger another huge wave of people trying to get into the country. And many states like Arizona and Texas are saying, look, we cannot absorb this number of people. It is straining state resources enough. Now, as of the date of this video being recorded, the U.S. Supreme Court is set to hear oral arguments at the end of February, where presumably they're going to make a decision on whether or not the administration can revoke the use of Title 42. If they do, it's going to be interesting. Now, I promise to keep this video brief, and that's what I'm going to do. I could have talked about a lot more. I didn't go on to every nuance of Title 42 or asylum. I could have talked about affirmative asylum, defensive asylum. I could have talked about the legal implications of Title 42, but I'm just not going to do it. I don't have the time. You can do your own homework. This video is a good start. Now I'm going to wrap things up. I hope you found this video educational, and for now, this is LawDog 910, and I'm out.